everyone, I'm Galasrinie, and I'm going to be doing Bayonetta, new game, 80% normal null, infinite flip glitch. I hope you will enjoy this run. Timer starts on normal difficulty select, but yeah, which will be in 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, welcome. This is Bayonetta. Bayonetta is an action-packed hack-and-slash game by Platinum Games. The first part of this run is just an auto-scroller, so there isn't too much required of me to do here, but it will give me an opportunity to explain a few things. So, right at the start of the game, we get introduced to two of the main characters. On the left is Jean with the blonde hair, and on the right with the darker hair is Bayonetta, who is the character we're going to play for the run. So yeah, like I said, this is just a auto-scroller part. You'll notice right now that there is a narrator who has a bit of dialogue to read to give a bit of information about the world and the story. What can happen in speedrunning this game is sometimes the final line of his dialogue can get cut off. So we just have to wait and see if we get that extra bit of time saved. Yeah, Bayonetta is very action-packed. The speedrun is just as flashy as Bayonetta is herself. So, I'll try and explain the main things where I can. In the auto-scroller part, we get introduced to some of the basic enemies of the game. Unlike Devil May Cry, where you verse demons and devils, in Bayonetta you verse angels, which is the opposite. Attached to each of Bayonetta's limbs on her legs and her hands, she has guns. In Bayonetta, the main way that we do damage to enemies and in combat is through combos, as well as shooting with guns. So through punches and through kicks, and then she also has the guns on her hands and feet. But through this run, we'll also be getting a few other weapons that I'll get to show once we get there too. So in the back there is a larger angel. You can see him flying. He has some dragon heads. His name is Fortitudo, and we're going to be seeing him quite a few times in the early game of the run. Yeah, I'm very excited I get to show the run, because this run doesn't always get shown at marathons, so I'm very thankful I get to show it. So the final line of dialogue is coming up right now. See, all but one. However, the narrator only said the first word, which was all. So sometimes, with running this game, we can get a little bit of a cut off there and save a bit of time. So the first part is the prologue, the vestibule. Bayonetta ends up in a cemetery with some angels, and what I'm going to be performing here is what we call the ragdoll combo, which we do by lifting an enemy up. Ooh. Okay, lifting an enemy up, and then we grab them and try and ragdoll them into each other. That way we can hit multiple enemies at once. One thing you'll notice when defeating the angels is that there are these golden rings that pop out of their body. They are called they're halos, and that is the main currency of the game. You kill angels and halos pop out of them, so. Now in this wave, there is a smaller angel flying type that are called decorations, and we just shoot them down. In the next wave, there is a mix of both. So what I'm doing is the same ragdoll combo. I'm going to try and push them into the decorations if I can. So that way I can save a little bit of time. Now, underneath Bayonetta's health bar, which is the green bar, there are these multicolored spheres. That is called the magic gauge, and when Bayonetta has a full magic gauge, she can perform this, which is called a torture attack. We do that to that enemy specifically because he has quite a bit of health, and doing that to him will one-shot him, so that way we can get rid of him first. And then we just clear out the rest of the enemies there. In the next segment, it is a requirement to perform 3 torture attacks in order to progress. So as soon as this segment starts and the angels start spawning in, I perform a torture attack on one of them straight away from the magic gauge that I had previously built up in the previous fight. And now, holding down my combos, I'm going to be trying to fill the magic gauge up as fast as possible. Because when you hold down the attacks, Bayonetta will shoot a lot of bullets from either her hands or her feet. And doing that, we can fill the magic gauge up fast. Except when an enemy hits you, they take your magic gauge away. That can be annoying too. But that's okay. So that's the end of the prologue. Yes, whenever you get a platinum award, Bayonetta will tell you how she should have been a pole dancer, which is great. Now, in between chapters, there is this minigame called Angel Attack. I won't be playing it here, but I'll be playing it a bit later, so I'll get to explain it in detail then. So this is Chapter 1, The Angels Metropolis. There's a bit of movement tech at the start of this chapter. We jump over this train, and then we perform this faster movement, which is called jump punch cancelling, which is performed by pressing the jump and the punch button together. We also use the dodges to go along here, and for some doors in Bayonetta, it is a requirement for you to do damage to them in order to go through. So you're going to see that quite a bit along the run and the game. In that chest there is a key. We go up to put the key in the keyhole, and there's an enemy that spawns behind us, but we don't actually need to deal with them. We can just keep going on. Keep going straight through. After interacting with this broken statue, a fight emerges, and I'll just be doing the same ragdoll combo to try and push the enemies into each other, if possible. And yeah, just try and take them out. After interacting with the statue again, once it is reformed after this fight, and interacting with it and then activating it, the statue will cast a lightning bolt, and dodging that lightning bolt gives Bayonetta witch time. Witch time is probably one of the most important mechanics in the game, and what it essentially does is slows down time. Bayonetta can get witch time whenever she dodges something in her surroundings, like an enemy. If it could do damage to her, dodging that attack can get her witch time, and when time is slowed down, Bayonetta can take advantage of the enemies while they're vulnerable. So we're just doing more of the jump punch cancelling movement, but that's the last time that you will see it because we're going to go into the store and buy a technique. And that technique is air dodge, which is pretty self-explanatory, but it allows you to dodge through the air, which is going to be a fast movement that we now have. In this little dome, there is a vase, and in that vase is arcade bullets. I remembered I mentioned that there is a minigame in between chapters. Ooh. We collect those bullets for that minigame, so that we have more bullets in the minigame, and I'll get to show you that minigame after this chapter. So there's a fight that emerges here. One thing about Bayonetta that she can do is she can take the angels' weapons away from them. Like right now, she has the halberd from one of the angels and is using it now as a stripper pole. Another way that Bayonetta can take an angel's weapon is by performing a torture attack, like before. And we torture attack that enemy with the ball and chain weapon specifically because we're going to need his weapon to do a lot of damage to an enemy who's going to be spawning in a bit later. might go back here and collect this again. They're very far away from me. Anyway, I'm just gonna do that. So this is the Beloved, a larger angel type. What these Beloveds have on their back is a red spot. That is their weak point. So we use the ball and chain weapon to do a lot of damage to their back and take them down. For some of the larger enemies in Bayonetta, Bayonetta will summon an infernal demon. This is Gamora, which she summons with her hair as the medium. For those who don't know, Bayonetta is a witch, so you're going to be seeing a lot of demonic things like that throughout the game. So we take the axe from the Beloved that we just killed, and we also collected a LP disc. These discs, when you exchange them at the store, will give you certain weapons. So we pick up that disc specifically for a weapon that we're going to need for the run. Bayonetta has a flashback, and we see Fortitudo from the past. And what we're doing here is a technique called Bullet Climax, which allows Bayonetta to stay in one spot and shoot a lot of bullets either from her hands or her feet to take Fortitudo down first. Also going to be using the same technique here. This is a technique you get by default at the start of the game. It can also be performed with the feet. And one thing about this technique is that it allows you to stay in the air, which is very important for here, because if I stay on the bridge, you'll notice the Beloved is ramming the bridge to the side wall. If I were to stand on the bridge, Bayonetta gets a little stagger animation and can't do continuous damage to him, which is what we want to do to take him down. We're going to be using the axe from the previous fight, because the Beloved will spawn down here, and using the axe, we can get rid of all of his health. You'll notice in this animation, Bayonetta is on the platform with the Beloved. He usually crawls up the stairs that we were on to get on top of here, and this is where you usually would verse him, but because the axe does so much damage to him, we can kill him before he even gets there. And that's the end of chapter 1. So in this chapter, I collected arcade bullets for the minigame, which I'll get to show here. So with Angel Attack, the reason why we play this minigame is because as a reward for playing this minigame, with the points that you collect from shooting the angels here, you can get certain items, and there's one item in particular that we need for the run that we can't get at the store currently. So I'm going to try and get enough points for, yeah, cool. Usually want to get about 90 points. And the item that we want is the Magic Flute. The Magic Flute does damage to surrounding enemies in an AoE burst. And it is possible with the glitch, the Infinite Flute glitch, to infinitely use this without consuming the item. But in the No Infinite Flute glitch speedrun, we do not use this glitch. We have to consume them normally. At the start of chapter 2, the first person that you fight is Jean. Jean is probably one of the toughest fights. The first Jean fight is probably one of the toughest fights in the speedrun, mainly because she can be really aggressive, but also very passive and run away from you, like she's doing right now, which is not good. She can dodge everything that you try and throw at her. Also, the camera is a little bit wacky. Now, what you'll notice with Bayonetta now is that sometimes she will summon these large feet or large hands at the ends of her combos. These are called Wicked Weaves, and they can plant a lot of damage on Jean as well as other enemies throughout the game. So we try and use a double punch, double kick combo to try and trip her. She's still... there we go. Yeah. She was rolling around a lot. Anyway, because this fight was a flashback, Bayonetta remembers that she can do this one technique, which is Witch Walk, which allows Bayonetta to walk on the walls. So, for some parts of the game, you'll now be seeing Bayonetta creep on some of the buildings. There's a statue to the side. We interact with the statue and then activate it when it's closer. Because in some parts of the game, it is a requirement for some doors that you have Witch Time activated in order to go through them. So we get Witch Time in the new game run from that statue to progress forward. This fight starts and I try and ragdoll one of the angels into the others to try and get some damage output straight away. Just have to try and clear them out as fast as possible. And now one of the angels, the one that had like a red cloak, dropped an angel bow, his weapon. And I'm going to be using that to clear out some of these angels. Okay, this is not good because I need... oh no. Okay, this is okay. Usually I want Magic Age to torture attack this guy, but I got hit too much so I wasn't able to do that. That's okay. So, when this wave comes in, I use a Magic Flute straight away. Because that clears out the angels that are coming down. Or at least I should have. And then that's the end of that fight. Coming up next, there is a new angel type that we get introduced to. They can be rather pesky because they can move around a lot. So we'll see how we go. It is an enchant. Usually for this fight I would have an angel bow from the previous fight, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get one, but that is okay. We can take them down fast still. As soon as this fight starts, I use a Magic Flute to clear out the enchants on the wall. The beloved from the previous fight comes here, and he's not looking too fresh. So he cries out for help, and someone comes to the rescue. So now there's two beloveds in the arena. First thing I do is try and get Witch Time from the one in the back, and kill the one with the lesser health. We take his axe. You might remember from the previous chapter, the axe does a lot of damage. And we use that axe against the beloved who just came in. And take him down fast. For some of the climax moves, you'll notice that I won't be performing the Gigaton prompt, the button mashing. That is because for some of Gamora's summons, it is actually slower to do that because Gamora will do a munching animation, which is slower. So we just want that to finish as soon as possible. So for some, we will be doing the Gigaton prompt, but for others, we won't. When this fight starts, we torture attack the one in the back and hope that this one will be nice. He wasn't nice. He can do this one move where I can get Witch Time instantly, but he didn't decide to do that, but it's okay. And we just take him down. This wall that you see, usually you have to do damage to that wall to create a pathway. However, using the air dodge technique that we got at the store, it is possible to make it across without having to do that. So here's Fortitudo again. We use the halberd as a stripper pole in front of his face like you do. Try and get some damage straight away. And now we're going to be shooting a lot of bullets into his face. Using the bullet climax technique. He tries to bite us, but standing to the side, he doesn't get an opportunity to do that. We take him down. Fortitudo tries to breathe a fireball at Bayonetta, but Bayonetta says no. I'm gonna throw this building at you. So she throws the building at his fireball. And that's the end of chapter 1. 2, sorry. Chapter 2. As you do. Now, before chapter 3, I'm going to be going into the store to exchange some of the discs that I had collected for certain weapons, as well as buy some techniques and items that I'll get to show. So we're going to be going into the store, which is called the Gates of Hell, lovely name, and we retrieve the Onyx Roses as well as the Shiroba Sword. We also buy 2 Yellow Moon Lollipops, and we're going to be buying the Stiletto technique as well as the Afterburner Kick technique. These 2 techniques are very important for quite a bit of movement tech as well as skip tech along the run, which I'll get to show. First thing we do in chapter 3 is equip the Shiroba Sword as well as the Onyx Roses, which are a type of shotgun, and the Yellow Moon Lollipops. The enemies in this fight are on fire, so I cannot touch them normally as Bayonetta will get a stagger animation. So all I'll be doing is winding up the sword and try and get witch time where I can. Clear the enemies out, and then I use a magic flute to clear out the rest of the enemies because there is a wave that comes down. So that's a way to do it. With the combination of the stiletto technique with the sword, we perform this movement, which is like Bayonetta bursting forward, and that is going to be the fastest movement that we have currently. So that's the movement that we'll now be doing. In this fight, we get introduced to a new angel type. It is called a Fairness. It is like a dog style angel. One thing you'll notice is that the angels in this game don't exactly look very angelic, but they are very aggressive too. So usually here, you interact with those 2 statues that I'm bypassing to go through that lava. However, we use a Yellow Moon Lollipop. Yellow Moon Lollipops grant invincibility, meaning that we can go through there without having to interact with the statues. Also here, usually you would go across the buildings to the side, but using the air dodge technique, we can make it through the middle without having to go across the buildings. We can make it fast down to our destination. Next fight is 2 of the Fairness. They don't always play fair. And I'm holding down the combos because now that we have the Onyx Roses, which are the shotgun on the hands and feet, Bayonetta will shoot the Onyx Roses bullets. Even though they have a short range, they can do a lot of damage to enemies that we're going to be seeing. Little cutscene here. Gonna be a bit of button mashing, so I apologize if my controller is very clicky. I apologize. Just try and mash as much as possible. So this is the underground, and there is a skip coming up that I'll get to show. This is the catacombs. In front of me, you will notice that there is a bridge. Usually to progress, you need to go across that bridge to get to the end of the chapter. However, in the speedrun, using the techniques, the Afterburner Kick technique as well as the Stiletto technique, it is possible to make it to a platform in the distance without having to go across the bridge or deal with the bridge breaking. And we can make it across like so. Because what happens is there's an animation with the bridge breaking, and usually you go through a portal and have to remake the bridge, but we can skip having to do all of that using those two techniques that we bought at the store. You can do that movement through the air and progress forward. So now I'm just going to be doing the stiletto movement with the sword to make it to the end of the chapter. And in the next chapter, we're going to be here, which is a Colosseum, which I'll get to show in the next chapter. So an enemy that we've seen quite a few times now, Fortitudo, we are now going to be versing him in a glorious arena. In the Observatory Colosseum. So this is Chapter 4, the Cardinal Virtue of Fortitude. I'm gonna hope that he gives me a bite at the start. He was very good and decided to do that. And what we're going to be using is the bullet climax technique. However, now we have the Onyx Roses. And using the Onyx Roses with the technique, we can do a lot of damage to Fortitudo. Once he receives a certain amount of damage, he will fly off to go into the next parts of his boss fight. He flies up to perch himself up there. He will breathe fire, and the floor will start to break, so we just move so that we don't get any damage or get staggered. Some platforms emerge, and now Bayonetta is gonna suplex Fortitudo. Because apparently she was also a wrestler in her free time. She lost her memory, but she didn't forget to... she didn't forget how to suplex. So we just try and button mash as much as possible. There is a shop in after the next chapter, so we just have to try and make sure we have enough halos for that. So we ripped off one of the dragon heads, but we still have the other one. I'm going to try and perform something special here. When he lowers his head to breathe fire, if you dodge and get witch time, you can do damage to his head and then trip him over with the sword. And now we just try and do enough damage to him, so he will go into the next parts of his boss fight. You might have noticed there was a grab prompt. We don't do that because that is slow. Also, if I don't get witch time and trip him over, he breathes fire and lava all over the floor, and it can be really annoying. So this is a very good way to make him go to the next part of his boss fight as soon as possible. So, just gonna rip off his other head now. So, he's not very happy that we did that. He's very angry. So the next part of his boss fight, we're going to verse him in a little bit of a different setting. And for this phase, you're going to see the sword used a lot more often. When he decides to summon spikes, usually they're annoying and you can't do damage to him. However, because the bullet climax technique can be done in the air, we can shoot him in such a way that he can't do damage to us and we can continuously do damage to him. So now, Bayonetta will summon another one of her infernal demons, but this one is a little bit different from the one before. This one's name is Malphus, and he is a bird. So Malphus is gonna come and take Fortitudo. And that's the end of that chapter. Cool. The next chapter, chapter 5, we are going to get introduced to quite a few new angel types, a few different enemy types. One of them in particular is very fast, has a lot of claws, and can be very aggressive, so I'll get to show them to you once we get there. So this is the Lost Holy Grounds. The floor here starts to break, but using the stiletto movement with the sword, we don't have to deal with the floor breaking. So the enemy is coming up in just a second. The enemy is called Grace and Glory. They come in red and blue. First thing I try and do is, because the sword Wicked Weave has quite a big range, we can hit them both at the same time in the beginning. And take them down. I specifically aim to kill the red one first, because the one that you kill first will drop their weapon. And we want the red one for the speedrun, because the red weapon does a fire element, whereas the blue one does an electricity element, and the fire element does this move, which is like a spinning with the claw. By doing that, we can get rid of the furnace to the side. Now this is a dog-style angel, but you might notice it looks a little bit different. This one has a tail, and it is called a Fearless. Fairness and Fearless. There are angels who spawn in here, but you'll notice it is not a requirement for me to verse them, because in some parts of the game, yeah, you can bypass quite a few fights that happen, but if the fight has an angel gate or an invisible wall that needs to be removed in order to progress, those are the fights that we will be partaking in. This portal here, once you go through the middle, it puts you in this perspective flying through the air. So this is just cruising on through. Some little angels, but we just try not to hit into them because they'll slow us down. And once we get to the end, there will be a fight. Which is Grace and Glory, my favorite. The combo that I'm using against them, or that I use for their fights, is a triple punch, triple kick combo. This is because Bayonetta does this sweeping with her legs, and that can trip them over even if Witch Time isn't activated. So we're going to introduce, to another angel type. This is called a Harmony. They like a stingray style angel. And by going to the side of the platform, they will spawn around us and collect around us, and we can use a slash with the sword to take them out as soon as possible. In this chapter, I've been collecting these disc pieces. For some chapters in Bayonetta, for the weapons, the disc pieces are split up. So in this chapter, I will be collecting the pieces for probably one of the most important weapons in the whole speedrun. These angels are called Ardors, and shooting the first one in the head with the Onyx Rose's bullets on the feet, and then using the claw in between them, you can take them both out at the same time. The claw from the previous fight. So usually with Grace and Glory fights, it is always an objective to try and kill the red one first, most of the time, for their weapon. So in front of Bayonetta there is a door. That is one of the doors where it is a requirement to have Witch Time in order to progress through it. So we need to go up here and gain access to these statues to get Witch Time. But in order to do that, we need to first complete this fight. Hopefully I don't die. My health is not looking too fresh. But that's okay. Now, We gain access to these statues. And then we activate it for a lightning bolt to appear and get witch time. There is a little bit of a skip coming up here. Using the afterburner kick technique, we can make it up this wall without having to go around. And in this chest, there is the final piece of the LP. Okay, let's see if I can... Once we go up here, there will be some inspireds breaking the platform. If I kill this inspired, which is like a snake-like angel, as soon as possible, before the inspired in the back disappears in the background, you can get a quick kill. That is probably, I would say, one of the hardest tricks in Bayonetta to do, because you have to go up that path really fast using the stiletto movement, which can be hard. Now we collect the Durga, which is the weapon from the disc pieces in this chapter. The Durga is a set of claw-like weapons with the elements of fire and lightning. And for the speedrun, we are only going to be using the fire element and equipping it on the feet. And I'll get to show it to you in just a minute. They're very strong, and yeah, they're really important for the run. So this is Temperance. He got some funny noodly looking arms, but we're not going to be dealing with him right now. We're going to be seeing him a bit later. He just wanted to say hi and then ditch. But right now, we have someone that we do need to verse, which is Jean, the second Jean fight. With the Durga, you can plant these explosives, which you can see how much damage it just does to Jean's health. And she can roll around a lot, but you can get a very quick fight with her. Now, after defeating her, we get this technique, which is called Panther Within. Panther Within is the fastest form of movement that we have on the speedrun. So from now on, you won't be seeing the stiletto movement with the sword. You'll just be seeing Panther Within, which is running in panther form. Because this chapter you collect a lot of bullets, I'm going to be playing Angel Attack here because we're going to need some more magic flutes for the run. And yeah, we do it for this chapter rather than the other chapters because from quite a few fights there are bullets that you just get normally. Naturally, I should say. So we want at least 90 points so we can get 3 magic flutes again. Before we go into the next chapter, we're going to be going into the store. Because now, there are some techniques that are now available to us, which is Bat Within, as well as Crow Within. Crow Within is very important for a few skips along the run, which I'll get to show. I'm also going to be buying some more Yellow Moon Lollipops as well. And I had enough for all of them, which is very good. So this is the Gates of Paradise. We start off by seeing Panther Within, the running in panther form. And now we will see the Durga in action against smaller angel types. The explosives are very good for clearing them out. Because of the area effect that they have. Coming up in this next area, there is a skip. There is usually a fight that you perform after interacting with these two statues. However, using the afterburner kick technique as well as the crow technique, it is possible to latch onto a part of that wall and get up here without having to perform that fight. Because usually to get on top of there, you need to complete that fight and the fight will give you water platforms. But using those two techniques, it is not necessary. This guy didn't get involved in my... That's okay. But yeah, that's a very cool skill. Next fight is Grace and Glory. Unlike before though, you see how the Durga just, yeah, blows them up very fast. Gonna try and get this claw as soon as possible and activate it as soon as possible, because if I activate it before they are ready to attack, I can clear them both out together. There are some angels who spawn here, but for some fights, like I said, it's not necessary to verse them, so we just jump over them. So in this room, you get introduced to a new character, which is Little Cereza. She's in a purple dome, which is behind me, and we have to protect her from the angels. As you notice, underneath Bayonetta's health bar, there is also another health bar with a little girl symbol. That's Cereza's health bar. In the speedrun though, the angels don't really get an opportunity to hit her, so she's alright. And we just use the Durga explosives to take down the enemies. Then a larger angel will spawn in and he just gets blown up as well. So yeah, a lot of blowing up in this run. So there's little Cereza next to us. You might have seen her, she was the little girl. So we protected her from that mob of angels, and now she's getting chased by a beloved of those, so we have to protect her from the beloved. And we're going to be using the debris to the side to hit back at the beloved, because we don't want him catching up to her, because she is what decides how fast or how slow this segment is, and we want her continuously moving, so we're going to be just throwing stuff at him to try and make sure that he does not touch her. Sometimes though, Cereza isn't feeling too great and she falls over, even if the beloved is a little bit behind her. So we just have to try and encourage her to keep moving. Let's see if I can go through. Yeah. Oh! No! Okay. Okay. I got stuck a little bit there. Anyway. After going through this portal, we are now in the Paradiso realm, or paradise, where all the angels hang out. And there are some dog angels, but hallelujah from above, we don't have to verse them because there's fireballs coming down from the sky that get rid of them for us. We do have to deal with the beloved though. Like the beloveds previously. Oh, I'm in the wrong weapon set. They have a weak point on their back, which is that red spot. And what we're going to be doing here, because they're a really tall enemy, we're going to be using the afterburner kicks to get up to his back and then plant the Durga explosives if he doesn't decide to slap me. And we just take him down. One of the animations that you can't skip in the game is the beloved crying out, saying that we took his child. But we find out that the person that is holding Cereza isn't actually Bayonetta. This one has a halo. That's Bayonetta in the back. So we still have to protect Cereza. I use a yellow moon lollipop so that none of these lasers from Bayonetta's impersonator will alter our movement going through here or hurt us. Gotta find out who it is. We found out that it is a Joy. The Joys are like a humanoid style angel type. Ooh. I got a little bit scared there. Because one thing that these Joys can do is that they can decide to duplicate into two enemies. Which is not nice. I don't want to be dealing with two of them at once. So, we just try and take them down as fast as possible. They can like dodge back and then decide to duplicate. Which was what she dodged back, but she didn't do that. Which she could have done. But anyway, we just try and take them down as fast as possible. Might remember this one character I pointed out. His name is Temperance. He had like these long noodle-looking arms. I'm gonna be versing him now. He is a boss fight in the Cardinal Virtue of Temperance. There is something special that we're gonna be doing for Temperance's boss fight. Whenever Bayonetta has a firearm on the feet of one weapon set and Durga on the other, during the kicking animation of this combo that I'll be performing, if I do four punches and then kick, during the kicks, if I change weapon sets to some sort of firearm, like right now we have the Onyx Roses on the second weapon set, we can fire bullets during that animation. That is an exploit with the Durga that we can perform, and it does a very high damaging combo. You can shoot a lot of bullets from the feet. Because the Onyx Roses are a shotgun that usually are a bit slow, but with the exploit, you can shoot a lot of bullets. So Bayonetta summoned another one of her Infernal Beasts. This one's name is Hecatonchia, which is like these hairy hands. So I switch weapon sets, and then I shoot a lot of bullets from the feet. If he does a move like this, I try and get enough height so that he did that twice. It's not very nice. We just have to do enough damage to him, because once he receives a certain amount of damage, he does this punch, and we crawl up his arm to break these capsules on his arms. And I use the sword to break them open. We ripped off one arm, and now we have to rip off the other. He tries to struggle, but Hecatonchia punches him in the gut. There are capsules on his body though, so we also have to crack those ones open as well. In the new game normal run, there are 3 on his body. So that's 2, and then there's just 1 more up here. We use the stiletto movement with the sword, and then bullet climax with the Onyx Roses guns on the hands. Breaking those capsules, gets rid of the force field around his face. He's not very happy right now. So first thing that we do is we use a Yellow Moon Lollipop. Yellow Moon Lollipops, like I said, grant invisibility so that none of our combos will get interrupted while we attack him. We use the exploit twice and then get rid of the rest of his health using the sword. And Temperance just got wrecked. He... very much so. Yeah, his face got a reconstruction.
I should have been a pole dancer.
So the next chapter, Route 666, has probably one of the biggest skips. Well, it is the biggest skip of the whole speedrun, so I'm actually just going to quickly make a save file for this chapter before I progress, because it's a marathon and anything can go wrong, so I'll just quickly make a save file. Because this skip saves a lot of time. Okay, so this setting is you on some Bayonetta on some cars and trucks with some angels. So we kick the first 2 off, and then we go to the corner, and we use a magic flute to clear the enemies to the side. And now we just have these 2, hopefully, to deal with. Sometimes the ones that I kick off at the beginning can survive, but thankfully, they died as well. The next fight is some Joys. Gonna be using a Mega Yellow Lollipop. And they can do whether a kick or a sort of stiletto looking movement, and by dodging that move I have an opportunity to get Witch Time, and can take them down first. Or I can use a triple punch, triple kick if I want to just kick them over. Forgetting which time there is first. Now the skip is coming up. Usually, for this segment, you do a whole motorbike racetrack to verse this angel, which is in the form of a car, whose name is Ironic. But we have a skip that I'll get to show. As soon as this segment starts, Bayonetta's on her motorbike, we go into the menu straight away. And we use a magic flute. The magic flute allows us to go backwards over the finish line. We see the score screen, and then we readjust by hitting the wall, and we go over the finish line again, and the game will think that we did the whole motorbike racetrack when all we did was go backwards and over the finish line again. Because in Bayonetta, when you go into the menu, time is paused, so we freeze Bayonetta at the beginning, use a magic flute, and it allows us to go backwards into Panther form. And that saves about 4 minutes. These are Braves, they look a bit like Beloveds, and we just blow them up. Like so. Yeah, that skip is really, that saves a lot of time. So it's very important. It's not too complicated, but things can go wrong if I hit the side too early, for example. But we got it, so that's good. So the next chapters are set in Paradiso or Paradise, and there's quite a few skips that I'll get to show. As you can see, it's in a very angelic setting, very peaceful. And what I'm going to do is go to the right, because behind this wall there is a chest. And in that chest is an LP piece. Going to be picking up the LP disc pieces in this chapter for a weapon that we're going to be using for endgame. Right now I'm going to be performing a skip using the afterburner kick technique. We can gain enough height to get on top of this sphere. Usually to get on top of this sphere there is a fight below here that you need to perform. But it is possible, using those techniques, to go over it and get to our destination without having to do that fight. Let me stay here. Get the key, and we put in the keyhole. There's a little bit of a skip here. Using the afterburner kicks, we can get height so that the gravity of the upper platform will take us to it. This is a golem. It's like a green sphere. And usually you have to do this whole Indiana Jones sort of snake way to get to the bottom. However, because the invisible wall is not high enough, we can use the afterburner kick technique to get enough height and fall to the lower ring. We go over the invisible wall and then we use the crow form to fly and then fall to the bottom. So yeah, the afterburner kick technique, which I've mentioned quite a few times now, but we use that for a lot of skips because it gives a lot of height, which you can imagine can be very useful. In this verse, there are chests, and in each chest there are enemies or pieces to a key. As you can see, there's an enemy that just popped out. After cracking open this one, I'm going to get witch time from the enemy that spawns out. I'm blowing them up. The other one should be not too far behind, so I blow him up as well. Now collecting the claw. Gonna be using it in just a minute. I open up the chest with it, then I activate it and use it to kill the dog. The fairness. Because usually, yeah, you get a key from the key pieces. It is not necessary to put the key into the keyhole. We can jump over like that instead. But it is a requirement to perform that fight because there is an invisible wall that needs to be removed in order to progress. These are kingships. They're like a ship-style angel. And they can be rather pesky because they move. They have a weak point on them, similar to the Beloveds, like a red spot. And using the Durga explosives, we can just take them down first. After that fight, there's a little disc piece that spawns in, so I just have to make sure that I pick that up. Now, in this perspective, because we have Durga on the feet, we can do this spinning movement, which allows us to go a bit faster through here. However, there are vines, which are not very nice. Don't want to really hit into them because they slow us down. They can be rather pesky. We just try and make it to the bottom as soon as possible. Some joys will spawn in, but it's not necessary to verse them, so we just keep on going forward. There's the golem again. He tries to squash us. And I'm going this way because behind this wall is the final piece to the LP disc. To create the full disc, which we're going to be exchanging at the store a bit later for a weapon. Just going back here. Oh, that was not good. I have to wait for him now. Just make sure, because he can, if I'm too reckless, he will just squash me and Bayonetta becomes a pancake. Literally. That's okay. So he was following us, and now we are going to verse him. The thing about the golem is that the golem has several different forms. He has a dragon form. And the objective is to do damage to the sphere that comes out when he goes into his different forms. He also has a form where he is hands. Now, what we do not do is we do not perform the climax animation, because for some certain enemies it is not necessary. We wait a slight moment for the enemy to recollect, and they come back with a portion of health, and we can defeat them that way, which is faster. Because sometimes the animation is too slow. Like for the golem, there's this whole animation of him getting punched around and all this stuff, and it's too slow. So, why? Because it's fast. So we do that instead. Speed, yeah. So the next chapter is still set in Paradise or Paradise, but it is called A Sea of Stars. First fight that we have is some joys. Gonna try and get witch time. Ooh, okay. Ooh. Try and get witch time from their kick, and then you can use the explosives against them. I just tripped this one over. Like so. Gonna try and perform a little trick that we have here. If I fall down here in a specific spot, I might not get it, that's okay. And I use a magic flute. I did get it. It is possible because the magic flute does an AoE burst of damage to the surroundings. And you need to do damage to these walls for them to form the gears. We can use a flute to make the gears form without having to go to each one and have the animation of the each gear forming. It saves a little bit of time that way. Here are some harmonies, the stingrays, and we just blow them up. I'm gonna see some familiar faces, but they're like a miniature version. We see Fortitudo, he was a previous boss. And we just take him down. These ones have less health. With the exploit, we can take them down first. So this is Mini Temperance. Temperance's brother or something. And I need to wait for him to do a punch. He didn't give me the good punch, but I'll try and make it work. To get witch time. And then use the exploit to shoot a lot of bullets from the feet during this animation. And take him down. This platform is spinning, so we just have to wait until the platform comes. I also wait a slight moment here because these enchants can be really mean if you just go straight in. like a bull with the red cape, but just wait a slight moment and they won't be too aggressive. Coming up, there is an enemy that looks very similar to Grace and Glory. However, they are called Gracious and Glorious, and you cannot get witch time from them. I was very nervous he did that spinning move. Because usually the way that you exploit, or the way that you can take advantage of enemies is when witch time is activated, but for these enemies you can't get witch time, so we just have to be conscious of that. That is the final set of enemies that we verse in this chapter. There is usually a final verse of enemies to the left, however in the speedrun we go forward. Using the afterburner kick technique, we can get enough height to go onto this ledge, which is out of bounds, jump in panther form and then go into crow form, and we skip a whole pretty big fight at the finale of this chapter, and we can finish the chapter straight away. I think there's several waves, like there's beloveds and inspireds and all these angels just hanging out there. We just jump over the top of them. So yeah. That's a good skip. That's probably one of my favorite skips. Also the one I struggle with the most, but thankfully I got a first try. Now the next chapter is dedicated to a boss fight, the Cardinal Virtue of Justice. But before we see the boss, we have a few angels that we need to deal with. One principle with fighting angels in these sort of fights is that you usually want to aim for the larger one because the smaller ones will like gather around you, so you can blow them all up together. So this boss is Justitia, which means justice in Latin, in the Cardinal Virtue of Justice, which is what this chapter is called. And after you do a certain amount of damage to the head, Justitia's face will fall down and you run up this limb or tongue. I'm not quite sure what you would call it. And once we reach the head, Bayonetta gives him a nosebleed and we're going to be chopping off his tongue. Yeah, just take some practice. What we do when we return back from chopping off the tongue is we fall off the platform straight away. This is because if you stand on the platform, you have to wait for Justitia to break the platform anyway to go into that animation. You can also decide to break the platform in this way, which is not too great. That's timeless, but that's okay. So yeah, after a certain amount of damage here, he will throw a boulder at us. But Bayonetta punches through the boulder and we're gonna go up his head again. And chop another tongue off. For this boss fight, we only use the sword. For quite a few bosses in Bayonetta, we only use the sword because the sword is very good against them. So this is the final part of the boss fight. Okay, he decided to break the platform again. That move where he breaks the platform in that form is not nice because I need to go to the other platform. Which is a little bit timeless, but that is okay. And now this will be the final time. So with the final tongue chopped off, Justicia isn't doing too well. But the boss fight isn't over yet. There's just a small thing we have to do. And that is climax. Bayonetta will summon a different infernal beast than one that we've seen before. This one's name is Scolopendra, and it is a big hairy centipede. And we're gonna strangle the boss. With a big squish. Ew! Little bit. So that was the end of that chapter. The next chapter is The Broken Sky. The setting of this chapter is on a plane. Ooh, a military transport Valkyrie. We go to the left because behind this wall in a chest there is a magic flute which we retrieve for a fight that will be happening a bit later near the end of this chapter. Might have noticed that for some reason the plane was breaking up behind me. Those were Jean's Wicked Weaves. So you can maybe guess who is in this chapter. Jean has a fight in this chapter, but for Jean's fight we have something special that we do in regards to her fight that I'll get to show once we get there. Why is he hanging out all the way down here? Okay. Oh, that's okay. And we just take down these angels. Now, usually to progress, we go forward this way. You would go forward that way to verse Jean. However, in the speedrun, we go backwards. Because this whole plane is a physical object, it is possible to get on top of the plane, like so, using the techniques that we have. To the left is Jean's fight. What we do is we slightly go into her boss fight for her health bar to appear, and we fall to the right. By falling down, she will follow us to be in a standing position. We bait one of her wicked weaves by standing in a specific spot and we kick her off the plane. What this does is you'll see that her health will get erased. We go into her fight as intended, triggering the cutscene, but instead of having to verse her, she drops dead in the fight instantly. And that's very good. Yeah, that's a very good skip. We have little Cereza in our arms. She's very scared, so we have to protect her from the angels. I'll pick that up. So yeah, by doing that, we can take Jean out of her boss fight, and then we kill her before we even, like, go into it. It's very good. Because her fight, I'm pretty sure has like 3 different phases. Or quite a few different phases, so we can get rid of her like that. Coming up ahead, there are some harmonies. I see a blue aura. I wait to see a blue aura because that means that more harmonies are spawning in. And we use a magic flute to clear them all out together. Thanks everyone. Next chapter, we were in a plane in that chapter, and now we're gonna be on top of the ocean, in the Cardinal Virtue of Prudence. This chapter is dedicated to a boss fight. This boss's name is Sapientia. On each of Sapientia's legs, he has these porcelain faces. The first objective is to break each of the porcelain faces on his legs. I use a punch-kick-punch combo with the sword because the final sword, Wicked Weave, can reach high to hit his faces. After I break 2 of them, he will decide to dive, and then we have to break the other ones. This is probably was one of my... Yeah, this was probably my favorite boss casually to verse, because I thought he was really cool. And now we have to break the other porcelain faces. That's one, and then we just have the final one. Now we're gonna do a climax move. Bayonetta summons a different infernal beast. This one's name is Phantasmarine. I think that's how you say it. And he is a big spider. And Sapientia is like, oh no, I don't like spiders, I gotta run away. But Bayonetta says, oh no, you're gonna go this way. So she's gonna grab him. And we have to direct him towards the spider. There are these quick time event prompts that pop up. I have to make sure that I hit them because if I don't hit them, I will lose a lot of time. So yeah, I just have to make sure of that. Spider munches Sapientia's face, and now the weak point is his face. I'm gonna try and do some damage to him before he decides to dive. One thing that Sapientia can decide to do is dive multiple times without warning. We hope that he does not do this, because it is RNG and not very nice. I just have to try and do as much damage to him to not give him the opportunity to do that. Please, I want to hit your face. No, okay, I did get it! He almost went back to dive. Okay, that's good. I was a little bit scared there. And now, just have to make sure I hit these prompts. Where Sapientia gets punched into the head. Now, we're going down a water vortex. And Sapientia will be at the bottom. I use a punch kick punch combo with the sword, as the sword Wicked Reaves have a very good range at reaching. He will push us back, and as he does, when I feel the rumble of my controller end, I use a Yellow Moon Lollipop so that none of these lasers will interrupt me doing damage to him. Now we'll see. Big Spider is back, and he's very he's very big now. He's huge. The boss looks so puny by comparison. And it looks like someone is gonna turn into someone's lunch. And yeah, he just got eaten. I love the little spider to the right, because it looks like he's saying like, yay! And yeah, that's the end of that chapter.
I should have been a pole dancer.
Before we progress to the next chapter, we're going to be going into the store. I remembered, in previous chapter I was collecting disc pieces for an LP for a weapon, which I'm going to be retrieving now. Which is the Kilgore. I'm also going to be buying an accessory, which is Celine's Light, as well as some items, some Bloody Rose lollipops. I'll buy an extra one just in case. Some Yellow Moon lollipops. As well as some Purple Magic lollipops. Which I'll get to explain once they become relevant. Now this is Isla del Sol. The start of this chapter is a shoot 'em up segment. First thing I do is equip the Kilgore and equip the Bloody Rose lollipops. The Bloody Rose lollipops give extra attack damage, which I'm going to be needing for some of the mini bosses in this shoot 'em up segment. This shoot 'em up segment is a little bit repetitive. We're going to see a lot of angels and enemies that we had previously seen. One thing to take note of is that in this part, enemies will always be the same, the waves are always the same, so I just have to predict, well not, I don't have to predict, I just have to know, I just have to know which waves are coming in and shoot them down as fast as possible. So yeah. There's also like these buildings in the water, if I hit them I can get magic gauge. I want to keep an eye out on how much magic gauge I have and how much I use because I'm going to need it for the mini bosses, which I'll get to show. Yeah, this part is pretty chill, a little bit repetitive, so I'm just cruising. I alternate between two buttons to shoot a lot of the bullets on this missile, so I apologize if it's a bit clicky. Yeah, just for trying to take the enemies down as soon as possible. So the first little mini boss that we have isn't inspired, like one of the snake style angels, and you don't really get a chance to see him because he goes down very fast. Using the shooting as well as wicked weaves, which consume magic gauge in this segment. See some harmonies, the stingray angels, so they're just gonna be spawning in. Ooh. My hand slipped off my controller, that was not good. But that's okay. For some parts of the shoot 'em up, there are these little segments where some angels thought it was a good idea to try and hijack our ship, so we just have to get rid of them. Yeah, it's very crazy. So this next mini boss is Florituro. I use a Bloody Rose Lollipop so that I'm going to have extra attack damage for him, as well as using the Wicked Weaves and the shooting, and we can kill him before he even has the opportunity to attack back. So that's very good use of that. Also in this segment we have Beloveds, however they gave them fireball rocket launchers for this segment. But by predicting where they will spawn in, we can kill them before they get a chance to use it. So yeah, this segment is determined, the pace, how fast this segment is, determined by how fast you kill the waves as they come out. So I just have to try and do that. Because the faster you kill one wave, the next wave will come out after it faster. This mini boss is 3 inspired. I use a Bloody Rose Lollipop, so I'm gonna have extra attack damage for this part, and I'm actually gonna okay, I need to get Witch Time. Because I got hit, I lost some of my magic gauge for Wicked Waves to shoot at them, so I'm just gonna have to try and shoot him down like this. But yeah, I remember when I played this segment for the first time years ago. Oh, I hated this segment because I could never figure out what enemies were coming out. So this segment just takes a bit of practice. You have to remember, it's more of a memory game for this segment than anything. Just have to think, what's coming next? Ah yes, this enemy, I better prepare. Get into position. Now we hear the music is becoming eerie. The final boss of this segment is coming up. The final mini boss, I should say. The suspense. You can feel it. Who will it be? It's Temperance. So I use a Bloody Rose Lollipop for extra attack damage. I also use a Yellow Moon Lollipop so that none of these green bullets will interrupt me attacking him. And then when he decides to do a laser, I will fire Wicked Waves at him to hopefully, yeah, clear him out. Now we're gonna be arriving at the Isla del Sol. Gonna be arriving at Isla del Sol and versing Jeanne for the final time. There is a lot of tech in her fight, so I hope that I'll be able to explain it. First I equip Celine's Light, and then I use a Magic Lollipop. What Celine's Light does is, if you have a portion of the magic gauge available and an enemy decides to hit you, Witch Time will activate, giving you an opportunity to take advantage of an enemy. On the opposite weapon set of the Durga now, we have the Kilgore rocket launchers. Usually the Kilgore is a very slow weapon that does a lot of damage, but with the exploit with the Durga, we are going to be able to shoot a lot of rockets at Jeanne and do a lot of damage to her. So I change weapon sets and then I'm shooting a lot of missiles at her. Okay, Jeanne. So the objective is me trying to get Witch Time, whether it's from her hitting me or from dodging one of her attacks, and then doing the exploit to do a lot of damage to her health. One thing about Jeanne that is interesting is that if Bayonetta goes into her Panther form, Jeanne will want to chase in her version of Beast form as well. And whenever she comes out of Beast form, she will attack you downwards with her sword and do sword attacks. This gives us an opportunity for Celine's Light to activate for us to get Witch Time and do the Kilgore exploit on her using the Durga exploit on her using the Kilgore rocket launchers, so that we can do a lot of damage to her while she's vulnerable and slowed down in Witch Time. Yeah. The next chapter is A Tower to Truth. There's going to be a repetition of quite a few enemy types that we have previously seen in this chapter. Here we have some of the decorations, and we just use Bullet Climax with the Onyx Roses to take them down. These enemies are on fire, similar to the enemies in chapter 3. So we just try and take them out. In each of the rooms there will be different enemy types. In this room there are Braves. Look a little bit like Beloveds, but they're a little bit different. And we just use a double to punch, double kick combo to plant the Durga explosives and take them down fast. In this next room, there are joys. Try and get witch time, then use the double punch, double kick combo. Ooh! Spin to win. In this part, there are some enchants. I specifically go to the side because I'm trying to plant my explosives in such a way that I can take the enchants out altogether. Oh, this is not good because I want to make sure that I kill the red one first. Because he's very important for something that's going to be coming up a little bit later. Cool. We see, oh! Someone's punching through the wall! We'll be dealing with him a bit later. Some angels here were doing their midnight shopping, so we just have to blow them up. Don't know what they were doing hanging out in there, so we just have to get rid of them. We see all someone's arms were peeking through the wall. That's another temperance. So here there are some contraptions and I have to try and shoot bullets into his face. I specifically aimed them into his face because he does this stagger and I want to keep him staggered and unable to fight back if I can. After he receives a certain amount of damage, he will do this punch because he's not very happy that we did that. But it's okay because there's another one over here. Going between them, it gives him an opportunity to attack. So I use a yellow moon lollipop so that none of these bullets will interrupt me or do damage. He can do a laser. Hopefully I can stagger him out of it, but I don't have the greatest aim, but that is okay. He can move around a lot too. And we just try and blow him up. The camera pans to the left and we see the moon. A technique that Bayonetta got near the early game, after she fought Jean for the first time, was witch walk. And what we're doing here is witch walking up this wall. There are these elevators that come down, but we don't have to deal with them. Just have to jump in the middle. I use the claw straight away as well as the yellow moon lollipop. And using that claw gets rid of his health very fast. And we can make it up here. Kick him in the nose, and as per tradition, gonna be chopping off the tongue. And he blows up. The final set of skips for the speedrun are coming up. First one being this tiny skip where instead of going onto the platforms, we can use the afterburner kick to get up on top of here. The larger one, however, instead of interacting with this contraption, which usually forms the plates for you to get across, we can use the techniques that we have to make it across here without having to do that. Which brings us to a golem fight. This one has an extra form that it can do, which it might not show. But this one can also form into a centipede. But it's okay if it doesn't show it because I don't like that form. Now as before, we do not perform the climax animation because that is slow. Instead, we wait for the golem to regather, then we split the golem up again, and then we just get rid of it like so. our Bayonetta will witch walk up this wall. And there's one final enemy that we need to verse. Who will it be? Someone. It is Sapientia. And we're going to be doing a special technique here. This is a technique that you get by default at the start of the game, and it is called the dodge offset. What the dodge offset allows you to do is continue your combos even after dodging. Because Panther Form is done by pressing the dodge button twice, for Sapientia, we can plant explosives even after he goes back each time. This is a technique I've used in combat throughout the whole run, but I like to point it out specifically there because you can really see it in action. So it's very good for making combat a lot more fluid, because you might be doing a combo and then an enemy decides to attack you, you dodge, but you can also continue your combo afterwards to take advantage of them. The fastest form of movement, which is Panther Form, in Panther Form is jumping. As you notice, I do these jumpings because each time you jump, you gain a bit of momentum in the air each time. The final two chapters that are coming up are both boss fights, and they are both very RNG heavy. I can lose a lot of time to these bosses, so we're gonna see how we go. And the first boss is the Lumen Sage. What I'm trying to do is trying to aggravate him to do a combo that I want, so I can activate Celine's Light to get Witch Time, and then using the same exploit that previously used on Jean with the Kilgore rocket launchers, shoot a lot of rockets into him to get rid of his health. This needs to happen 3 times, and the first 2 times Bayonetta summons Infernal Beasts, but you can see what happens with the Lumen Sage. He's very powerful. He cracks Gamora's neck. So now we have to verse him again. So I'm going to be shooting little bullets at him to try and aggravate him. He did not do the move that I want, that is okay. Try and aggravate him to do what I want. So that I can get an attack where I can get Witch Time and then exploit him straight away. Some attacks that he does, he'll put Bayonetta in the air or in a stagger animation where I can't attack back, but there's this one 3-hit combo that he does, which I try and bait by shooting little bullets at him. Now we have the Centipede. Centipede tries to squish Boulder. But he mocks us a little bit by combing his hair. That's not the one that I want. Because I didn't have Magic Age to activate Celine's Light, it is also possible to dodge the 3rd attack in that combo to get Witch Time as well. After we got rid of his health 3 times, Bayonetta shoots her bullet, which is actually her lipstick. And we have to direct it into Boulder's forehead. And that's the end of his fight. That was actually pretty good, all things considered. Yeah, 203. Usually you want around that time. Yeah, that was good. Didn't get marathon bad luck on that one. But we'll have to see if we get bad luck on the next one. Which is a boss fight just as mean. She can be really mean. So we'll see how she is today. Okay. Which is in the final chapter of the speedrun, Epilogue Requiem. At the beginning of this chapter, you play as Jean. You're not versing her, but you're playing as her. She is on a motorbike. We use a Mega Yellow Lollipop so that none of these angels behind us will stagger Jean or interrupt the movement of this motorbike, because we want to be going as straight and as fast as possible. Might be wondering what Jean is doing. Jean is coming to save Bayonetta. After the final chapter with the Lemon Sage, there were some events that happened, and now Jean is gonna come and save Bayonetta. And the theme song that is playing right now is called Friends, so that might give you a bit of an idea of the relationship between Bayonetta and Jean. Yeah, and we just have to go on through it. Yeah, QTJ. Cutie Jean. And yeah, I really love this song, and yeah, it's really good. There are all these cutscenes here that you don't see either in the speedrun, but they're really good. If you haven't played this game, I highly recommend it. Sometimes this game goes for like $5 on Steam, and it's so worth it. It's such a good game. Well, it's one, yeah, I recommend it anyway. I really like this game. So now we're coming close to the boss fight. And the boss's name that we verse is called Jubilace the Creator. Jubilace has these hair strands, and if she decides to do a move with her hair strands on the floor, the objective is to hit the spheres inside of them to do damage to her. The sequence of attacks that Jubilace decides to do determines how fast or how slow this boss fight will be. And after she receives a certain amount of damage, she will go into the next parts of her boss fight. The first segment is her summoning different elements, and the first element that she summons is fire. So there's all this fire and lava everywhere, and we just have to hit the spheres on the hair strands. We use the sword for her boss fight. We gotta knock her in the face. She doesn't like being knocked in the face, so gotta hit her a bit more. And she'll get up to do the next element. Which is ice. Similar to the fire element, the hair strands are in the same spots. Thing about the ice phase though is that there are these icicles that fall from the ceiling, so I just have to be a little bit wary of them, because otherwise Bayonetta will turn into an ice cube. Don't want that happening. And now we have to hit her in the face again. Ooh. That's okay. So this elemental phase is the one I do not like, because what she does here is she puts her hair strands on platforms, and in order to get to those platforms you need to get jump prompts to get to them on these smaller platforms. Sometimes I could believe that I am going to jump to one platform, but lo and behold, there's a platform that I didn't see that I end up jumping to. That's like in the distance or something. So I just have to be a little bit wary here of where I'm jumping to. Also, Jubilace can break those smaller platforms if she zaps lightning on them, and it can be very, very not nice. She goes into this bundle and we just have to knock her in the face again. Like I said, Jubilace is an RNG boss. She has one move that she can do here, which is just time loss. So we just have to see what she decides to do. Okay. Okay, this is okay. She has a punch attack she can also do. On the final punch you can get Witch Time. And then I have an opportunity to hit her in the hand. Do not like these drones. These drones are not good luck. They're not very nice. Okay. She is doing a frisbee move. When these blue frisbees come down, I purposely let them hit Bayonetta. Bayonetta goes into this little form. And letting them hit you as soon as possible. Jubilace will do the punch attack as soon as possible. She will always do the punch attack after that move. So, we just want that move to happen straight away. Now Bayonetta summons her hair to create a platform, and we just have to go up it. And we knock her in the face, get rid of the rest of the health that she has. And we're gonna climax. I'll let you enjoy this one. So with a combination of Jean's hair as well as Bayonetta's hair together, they summon Queen Sheba. And we're now going to punch Jubilace, the god, into the sun. With the big bang bonus. However, it's not over just yet. In order to get her into the sun, we need to make sure that Jubilace does not hit any of these planets. Because otherwise I have to do this segment again. So we're just going to be cruising on through. There's Jupiter to the right. I have to just make sure I don't hit any of the planets. There's Earth. Everyone wave! Everyone wave. There's Venus. And now we have Mercury. Okay, cool. Didn't crash into them. We have successfully put Jubilace into the sun. But it's not even over there yet. To make sure that Jubilace is indeed very dead, we have to make sure that we get rid of the body, like any good murder. On Jubilace's body parts, there are these lock-on points. I did avoid them. Hey, Ace. And I just have to make sure that I hit them correctly. To break up the body parts. Didn't make a fool of myself. Jean also helps a little bit, so she helps us a bit. Thanks, Jean. And now in Bayonetta speedrunning, we do not stop the timer in the final set of credits because there are fights in this set of credits that determine how long they are. So there's just a few fights that I'm gonna need to do in here. But I hope you enjoy the groovy music. The first fight in the credits, in the first set of credits, is Jean, the first Jean fight. But this time we're gonna have a lot more damage. Ooh. And she goes down very fast. I guess now is a good time for me to say, if anyone is interested in the run or the Bayonetta speedrun or getting into it or stuff like that, there is a Bayonetta speedrunning Discord that you can find attached to any of the Bayonetta leaderboards on speedrun.com, whether it's Bayonetta 1 or Bayonetta 2. You're most welcome to join. That's where all the runners hang out and talk about things. So you're most welcome to join. The next fight is protecting little Cereza. The combination of weapons that they give us in the credits is kind of strange. But that's okay. The first two fights in the credits are actually set on a timer. Like, they're always the same length, but the final fight in the credits is the one that determines the time. So, time will be coming up on final input, so I'll call it out when we get there. So this is set in the same setting as the prologue. I remembered, with the cemetery and the angels. Oh! Oh god. Okay. And timer stops now. I even I pressed my split button even though I don't have my timer on. But thank you everyone for watching my run, and for ARPGME for having my run. I was a little bit nervous, but we did pretty good. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for everything.